Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Robin Wansley, and I am the chair of the Administration and Enterprise Oversight Committee. I'm going to call to order our regular scheduled meeting for today, August 11, 2025. But before we begin the meeting, I do want to offer a friendly reminder to all committee members, staff, and the public that these meetings are broadcast live to enable greater public participation. These broadcasts include real-time captioning as a further method to increase the accessibility of our proceedings to the community. Therefore, all speakers need to be mindful of the rate of their speech so that our captioners can fully capture and transcribe all comments for the broadcast. We ask that all speakers moderate the speed and clarity of their comments. And with that, I will ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Vita.
Present.
Ellison is absent. Cashman.
Present.
Chugtai is absent. Vice Chair Palmisano.
Present.
And Chair Wansley.
Present.
There are 4 members present.
Let the record reflect that we do have a quorum, and I'll also remind my colleagues that we'll be using speaker management for the meeting. So if you're having any issues with that, make sure to check in with the clerks and to sign in. Also, Council Vice President Chugtai did inform me of their absence prior to today's meeting. That said, there are 19 items on the consent agenda, which I'll now read for the record. The first is a gift acceptance from the Big Cities Health Coalition of registration, lodging, incidentals, airfare, meals, and transportation. Second is a gift acceptance from the Wisconsin Environmental Health Association of registration and lodging. 3 is a gift acceptance from Eden Hall Exhibitions for 911 Directors Forum for travel, lodging, and meals. 4 is a gift acceptance from the Shared Use Mobility Center of registration, travel, meal, and lodging expenses. 5 is the MPFA grant for the Department of Public Works Water Distribution Facility. 6 is a bid for combined sewer overflows 001 and 117 Storm Sewer Improvement Project. 7 is contracts with various community partners for senior services and senior community navigator services. 8 is a contract amendment with Geographic Software Specialists, Inc. for engineering data integration and automation services. 9 is a contract amendment with Venco, Inc. for catch basin and maintenance hole repairs. 10 is a contract amendment with Exxon Enterprise, Inc. for upgrading helmet cameras for the police department. 11 is a contract amendment with Granicus, Inc. for subscription-based document hosting services. 12 is a contract amendment with Meyer Contracting, Inc. for the 2nd Street North Sanitary Sewer Improvement Project. 13 is a contract amendment with Michael's Trenchless, Inc. for the large diameter sewer cured and place pipelining 2024 project. 14 is contract amendments with multiple organizations for 2025 group violence intervention services. 15 is contract amendments with multiple organizations for 2025 youth group violence intervention services. 16 is a lease agreement with Sabanthony Community Center for environmental training space at 310 38th Street East. 17 is updates to the city's tort claims procedures. 18 is a legal settlement workers' compensation claim of Bevan Blewart. And 19 is a surveillance technology contract ordinance, which we will be setting the public hearing for September 2nd, 2025 at this committee. With that, I will move all items, specifically 1 through 17 and 19 on the consent agenda, and I'll ask for item 18 to have a separate vote. With that, all those in favor of items 1 through 17 and 19, say aye. Aye. And then clerks, if you can call the roll on item number 18.
Councilmember Vita.
Aye.
Ellison is absent. Cashman.
Aye.
Chugtai is absent. Vice Chair Palmisano.
Aye.
And Chair Wansley.
Nay.
There are 3 ayes and 1 nay.
Thank you for that. So that motion carries. With that, we will move to discussion item number 20, which is Oh, sorry. My apologies. I didn't look. Going back to the consent agenda, I do see Councilmember Cashman in queue.
Thank you, Chair. I just had a question on number 19, the surveillance technology contracts ordinance. And this may be for staff memo. I'm just wondering what current technologies we have at the city that would fall under this ordinance. Is that various cameras that MPD uses, or a shot spotter, or like what kinds of technologies are we looking at that would fall under this definition that's proposed in the ordinance?
Yeah, so I'm looking right now. So there's a copy of the ordinance attached to the file. If you look at under 18.190, it says surveillance technology means all technology maintained by law enforcement agencies. So, and particularly those technologies used to capture audio, video, photographic, biometric, digital, or other electronic record of activities of the general public. So one thing for sure is like drones. And what this essentially would do is, and we'll have more conversation about this at the actual public hearing, but essentially there will be a public hearing that will come with each request for technology or a technological device. Yeah.
Okay, I definitely appreciate the intent of the ordinance, but I'm wondering if we could just get a sense of the scope of the technologies we currently have so that we can understand what our baseline is in the city with this type of technology. Like any level of detail from staff about the technologies we currently use towards these ends would be helpful before we head into the public hearing.
And I think that's actually something to raise at the public hearing too. And as of now, the reason why we're bringing this ordinance is because we don't have a roster of what all those technological devices are that is publicly available. So this ordinance is around fostering that transparency because it's been piecemealed and we don't know what is the collective kind of inventory of those type of tools that are being used that fits that very broad category, which is recommended from our legal or attorney's office to kind of have it high level. And this could help us start building out that roster, but can definitely follow up. I'm pretty sure our city attorneys assigned to this ordinance and could work with MPD to see if they do have a list.
Yeah, that would be great. I know especially in downtown, we have a large inventory of cameras that were installed around the era of the last Super Bowl. And I personally think they're good and help us with our investigations for vandalism, robbery, all kinds of things that do happen downtown. But I would just like to know like the extent of the inventory of this technology that we already have. In any scope, like as much info as could be provided before we head into public hearing would be great.
Yeah, can follow up and just, once again, we'll share a reminder with all committee members. The ordinance is live and attached to the file. It does not have a provision where we're authorizing technology or contracts. What it does ask for is that list, what you're requesting, and that a public hearing essentially proceeds or is attached to any request for technological devices that MPD is requesting moving forward, because that process does not currently exist.
Okay.
So that's awesome. That said, I believe that is all for the consent agenda, and we covered all the business there. Next is a brief presentation from our Human Resource Department. Our CAO's office, and a presentation regarding contracts with multiple law firms for workers' compensation legal services. So I will invite Andrew Lathrop from the attorney's office to come up and speak. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Chair Wansley, Vice Chair Palmisano, members of the committee. My name is Andrew Lathrop, and I'm the Director of Risk and Claims. Today I have a short presentation about workers' compensation legal services for 25 through 28. Just for a short overview, this is a little unique RFP in that it's jointly done between the city attorney's office and finance and property. Risk management is within finance and property. The reason for that is all the legal responsibilities fall to the city attorney, but all the operational responsibilities for this fall to risk management. So we work together to produce this RFP. The intent of this RFP was to do a list of authorized providers to do these services. That's typically how legal services are done. It's not like if you're going to build a single project, you pick one contractor to build it. Here we have a list of authorized providers. And this is a standalone RFP for workers' compensation because that's a specialized, unique legal service. I'm sure you've seen other contracts for legal services come in, and it's many firms that perform general government services. But organizations usually do a standalone one for workers' comp because workers' compensation firms will generally be specialized, and that's kind of all that they do. So there were 6 respondents for the RFP. 3 were selected after a competitive process. And our intent is to execute 3 non-exclusive as-needed contracts. That's one thing I want to note is that the total budgeted for these 3 contracts will be $2.4 million over the life of the contracts. But if you look at the individual contracts, they all have an amount, that if added together would be excess to that. But we're controlling it on the budget side, and then it will be allocating to the firms as needed. And then I just put a little note that most of the legal expenses are related to PTSD claims, which are kind of a newer phenomenon here in the city. And we hope that we've peaked in that department because we had quite a few of those claims, maybe 20 to 22, and we're kind of working our way through those. So hopefully, those come down and stabilize. But until then, that'll be driving our legal needs in the near future. With that, I want to open up to questions from the committee.
Thank you so much, Andrew. I'm just checking the queue, and I will note there were some questions from other committee members who were not here, but they haven't shared them to be voiced or expressed right now. So there will probably be some follow-up over email then.
All right.
Looking. Yeah, I do not see anyone in queue. So with that, thank you for that presentation. Can I get a motion to approve this item?
So moved.
Awesome. Is there a second?
Second.
Great. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and that motion carries. Next, we have discussion 21, which are contract amendments with multiple vendors for community trauma response services. I wanted to give a follow-up on this, that I'm making the motion to refer this item to the August 19 CAL meeting, as we've done with this item in prior meetings before. So with that, I will make the motion. Can I have a second? All right, that was seconded. So do also voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. All right, the ayes have it, and that motion carries. Wow, we are flying. And then on to our final item, which is receiving a presentation regarding the high-level key metrics and processes in the Human Resources Department. I will ask Director Nikki Odom from Human Resources to come up and kick off the presentation.
Good afternoon, Chair Wansley, council members. Thank you for this opportunity to present an update on key human resources metrics and processes within the city of Minneapolis. This presentation is in response to a request from Chair Wansley to provide a high-level overview of the work our HR team is doing to advance equity, consistency, and continuous improvement across the city enterprise. As stewards of the city's workforce, we recognize the importance of ensuring our hiring, retention, and compensation practices reflect the values and diversity of the communities that we serve. Today's presentation will highlight several focus areas, with each section presented by the appropriate HR division director or subject matter expert, including recruitment and hiring, retention and promotion, continuous improvement, classification and compensation, and labor relations. And with that, I'll turn it over to our Talent Acquisition Director, Rich Perocha, to begin.
Welcome, Rich. All right.
Good afternoon, Chair Wansley, Vice Chair Palmisano, Councilmember Cashman, and Councilmember Vita. My name is Rich Perocha, and I am the Director of Talent Acquisition, and today I'll be focused on the equity in recruitment and hiring of this presentation. This slide provides a high-level overview of our enterprise hiring. We started talent acquisition in 2023, and since then we've seen robust application pools. The previous year's numbers encapsulates the entire calendar year, and through August 1st of this year, we thus far have received over 21,000 applications. The spike in 2024 was likely influenced by outreach efforts, mainly the recruit and marketing campaign for our public safety positions, where we launched a video campaign that increased sworn applications and filled the critical staffing shortage in 911. While application volume in 2025 normalized, it still represents a robust and highly engaged applicant pool, and we're on track to surpass 2023. The diversity and gender balance of our applicants have also remained stable, suggesting that our reach continues to resonate with a broad representative audience. I want to draw particular attention to two programs under our team's oversight, that is the Urban Scholars Program and the MPD Sworn Recruitment. For sworn positions, we've seen a steady increase in applications, and we're currently on track to surpass last year's applicant numbers. Next, I want to turn to Urban Scholars. Across the country, about 40% of those internships are unpaid, meaning too many students, especially those from underrepresented or low-income backgrounds, are left behind because they simply can't afford to work for free. This is what makes Urban Scholars different. Our internship is fully funded, and one of the programs HR has in its portfolio where we're not just offering experience, we're offering economic equity on a proven pathway to opportunity. You'll see that we've substantially increased the applicant pool compared to the previous year. We're seeing strong applicant representation across both ethnicity and gender, which reflects HR's ongoing commitment to inclusive outreach and program access. Our recruitment efforts are centered around three key pillars: enhancing our employer brand, expanding our community outreach, and maximizing our electronic footprint. Over the past few years, we've proudly earned LGBTQ+ friendly, women friendly, BIPOC friendly, and age friendly designations or certifications. We've helped Minneapolis become the first city in the state to be designated as Yellow Ribbon, recognizing our commitment to supporting veterans. We've revamped our employee recognition program, now called the Legacy of the Lakes, or simply the Legacies. By demonstrating positive employee contributions, our hope is employees will be more likely to share their legacy, amplifying our employer brand in the community and beyond. We've also started HR Bridges, which is a biannual event where HR works alongside community organizations to conduct resume reviews, interview preparation, vouchers for interview clothing, and even professional headshots. One event takes place in North Minneapolis and the other in South Minneapolis. Our outreach also goes beyond that of attending career fairs. We believe it's important to meet people where they are, recognizing that some community members may not have the time nor the means to attend a career fair during the workday. We actively participate in community celebrations like Juneteenth, Pride, the Hmong Festival, Somali Independence Day, Black State Fair, and Founders Day, just to name a few. We attend to serve as a resource, build relationships, and connect with our community to help bridge gaps in economic opportunity. Additionally, our job postings are shared electronically, where we make a conscious effort to include inclusive language and imagery that reflect the diversity of the city, and partner with recruitment platforms focused on connecting employers to candidates from various underrepresented groups. And next, I want to focus on the employees that the enterprise has hired. Over the past 2 years, we've hired approximately 900 to 1,000 employees annually. This year, our hires are actually at 498. I didn't get a chance to update the slide. At this point last year, that number was around 555. This decline represents the organization's heightened awareness of the economic environment and underscores the impact of our newly implemented vacancy review process. This process is designed to encourage thoughtful evaluation of staffing needs and to support efficient resource allocation while upholding our commitment to fiscal responsibility and services to the community. We're again seeing balanced numbers in our diversity, but we do notice a gender gap in female hires, which we are looking to address, particularly with law enforcement, which I'll detail in the next section. Again, turning our attention to two key areas. The Urban Scholars Program has seen growth this year, but recognizing the current economic challenges, we anticipate securing committed sponsors may be more difficult next year, so we are proactively engaging with several new potential partners and former partners now to expand those relationships for the upcoming year. I want to emphasize that 74% of Urban Scholars identify as BIPOC, more than double the national average of 32% for interns throughout the country. This also marks an increase from our own numbers last year. These aren't just statistics. They reflect our core values and our ongoing commitment to building a public workforce that truly represents the diverse communities we serve. We offer dedicated learning sessions on racial injustice and regularly bring in high-level diverse city leaders. These sessions provide invaluable insight into public service leadership and reinforce the importance of representation in systems of power. Now turning to sworn staffing. We have exceeded 600 sworn officers this year, a number we have not seen since 2022. We have tripled the hire numbers from 2 years ago. While BIPOC representation is strong, we do see the challenges in gender parity. Currently, women represent less than 14% of sworn officers nationwide, according to the Bureau of Justice Statistics. This disparity underscores the need for intentional outreach and recruitment efforts. To address this, we have joined the 30 by 30 initiative, a national movement aiming to increase the representation of women in law enforcement to 30% by 2030. HR is also attending women's military events, engaging with women's-only colleges, and looking for means to collaborate with organizations dedicated to supporting women, whether in the general workforce or in law enforcement. So in summary, while we have made significant strides in both our urban scholars and sworn staffing programs, we recognize the challenges ahead, and because of that, we have several important initiatives already underway. As many of you are aware, HR proactively requested an audit of its practices. One of the key outcomes from that audit was the formation of a dedicated talent acquisition division. My presence here today reflects that change and a signal that we are being deliberate and intentional in how we handle recruitment and staffing. Secondly, we have made it a priority to reduce how long it takes to hire an employee. Our department is committed to staying below the national average for public agencies, which according to our applicant tracking system sits at 119 days. We are currently filling positions well under that average, which speaks volumes about the efficiency, investments, and effectiveness of our processes. Third, we're working to lower barriers to hiring by addressing internal inconsistencies. This includes the launch of the city's first orientation program where HR covers administrative essentials, such as I-9 processing, badges, and login access, meaningful content, such as aligning new hires with the city's mission, vision, and values, and trainings, including unconscious bias training, to reinforce our commitment to inclusivity from day one. We've also established a standardized hiring procedure where we've moved toward consistent practices that are already yielding stronger applicant pools and a more streamlined hiring process. This process also requires all hiring managers to sign non-discrimination agreements, another formal step in ensuring our hiring practices are equitable and fair across the board. The end goal is for our community to not only see the opportunity in working with us, but feels truly welcome to help shape the city's future. And with that, I'll pass it to my colleagues who will take us into a deeper dive on how we're approaching equity and retention and promotion.
Good afternoon, Chair Wansley, Vice Chair Palmisano, committee members. My name is Thomas Fox. I'm the Interim Director of Business Partner Solutions within HR. I want to share some demographic data regarding length of tenure and promotions, specifically focusing on promotions and appointed positions within our organization over the past 3 years, 2023, 2024, and 2025. Starting with promotions in 2025, there were 86 BIPOC promotions compared to 135 for white employee promotions. Similarly, the previous years show 147 BIPOC promotions versus 232 white promotions in 2024, and 150 BIPOC promotions compared to 240 for white employees in 2023. When examining gender, we see that women promoted to new roles totaled 72 in 2025, 148 in 2024, and 140 in 2023. In contrast, men were promoted 163 times in 2025, 255 times in 2024, and 163 times in 2023. My apologies. Moving on to the average length of tenure. In 2025, BIPOC employees had an average tenure of 4.6 years, while white employees averaged 7.07 years. Across previous years, with BIPOC employees average 8.3 years in 2024 compared to 8.9 years for white employees and 8.95 years in 2023 for BIPOC versus 9.8 years for white employees. For gender, in 2025, women had an average tenure of 6.69 years compared to 5.78 years for men. in 2024. Women averaged 8.27 years, whereas men averaged 8.93 years in 2023. Women had an average of 10.44 years, while men averaged 8.93 years. For appointed demographics, let's examine these roles. We see appointeds for BIPOC employees with 4 in 2023, 9 in 2024, and 5 in 2025. In comparison, white employees with 29 in 2023, 21 in 2024, and 10 in 2025. When we look at gender, we observe that women appointed to new roles numbered 18 in 2023, 17 in 2024, and 6 in 2025, while men were appointed 25 times in 2023 and 13 times in 2024 and 9 times in 2025. Now let's look at the average length of tenure for appointed employees in 2025, for example. BIPOC appointed employees averaged 12.44 years in tenure and 13.89 years in 2024 and 16.5 years in 2023, while white employees averaged 15.1 years for 2025, 9.8 years for 2024, and 18.44 years for 2023. When we break down tenure by gender, in 2025, women had an average of 16.6 years compared to men's 12.88 years. In 2024, female had 10.58 years, and men 11.69 years. And in 2023, female had 18.5 years, while males had 17.3 years. And from here, I'll turn it on to my colleague who will talk about continuous improvement.
Good afternoon, Chair Wansley, members of the AEO committee. My name is Deb Kruger. I'm the Director of Operations in HR, and I am going to be presenting today on basically the exit interviews at the City of Minneapolis, from the process of soliciting and gathering feedback from exit interviews to the HR involvement in providing feedback of those exit interviews to leadership. I'm going to do some high-level trends, and then how HR supports the implementation of feedback based on exit interviews. So there are 2 primary ways that HR collects feedback from employees who are voluntarily leaving their city employment, either through retirement or through resignation. One way is to meet one-on-one with their assigned HR business partner for their department. And the second way is if they choose not to meet one-on-one or can't, they can do an electronic survey with the same questions that would be asked by their HR business partner online. It's an online survey, and a link is provided to them in their offboarding documentation and process. Participation in the exit interview survey is voluntary, and employees also have the option to remain anonymous so that we can increase participation if they choose not to state their name. The exit interview survey is comprised of 50 questions in the areas of sort of what I would call seven themes. One is around demographics, which is everything from the department they work in, race, gender, length of service. There are questions around their physical work environment, 4 questions, I believe, everything from their physical work location to their break space, those types of things, so physical work environment. There are 10 questions around on-the-job training, as well as training and development opportunities available to them, both within the department and the enterprise. There are 15 questions related to their particular job duties, their satisfaction, how well they feel, they understand the expectations of their job, how well their skills are applied in the job that they have. 2 questions around their department leadership and the culture within their department, everything from how well they feel the department leadership is committed to equity and equitable initiatives within their department, to communications, themes around communications and how well they're communicated with, as well as then very specific questions, many the same, but around their direct supervisor as compared to department leadership overall. There are 8 questions regarding performance evaluations and feedback about their performance, coaching, one-on-one meetings with their supervisors, as well as the actual performance evaluation cycle at the city. There are 7 questions around salary and benefits, 2 questions around their reasons for leaving the city, and then a sort of a satisfaction rating on their overall experience working for the city. On average, over the past 10 years, we've had about a 32% participation rate in employees providing feedback on the exit interview. In 2024 and 2025, that has gone down slightly from the average of a 10-year average to about 28%. That is lower, acknowledged it is lower than the industry standard, which is 40% participation rate. I believe that a good part of the difference, I think we would get really close to 40% when HR business partners meet face-to-face with an employee who's leaving and they go through the exit interview. They're not always necessarily captured in the tool that we use for the online. They can be entered in that way. I just think we're lagging on getting them entered into the tools so that we have an aggregated data collection spot. But I also do believe that 50 questions is kind of daunting for folks, even though none of them are required. You can skip questions you don't want to answer. And then I do believe that I think if we do some more in-person reminders or one-on-one personal reminders to employees to complete the online survey if they don't want to meet face-to-face. Right now, they're sort of auto-generated out of our system. But and you see this throughout the industry is the more personal connection you have to providing feedback, the more employees are willing to do so. And then the interview process, just and talking about some of the improvements that are coming up and some opportunities we've been using the SurveyMonkey tool since 2019. We haven't had really the budget. We've looked at some other ways to implement using an outside vendor. We haven't had the budget to do so. We are going to be taking the opportunity in the upcoming implementation of a new HR system with the Workday system. They do have an integrated exit interview process and tool within Workday that we'll be implementing as well, and to look to streamline and improve everything from fewer questions, I think, that are really very strategic to sort of the hot points that are happening within the workplace, as well as using sort of dynamic functionality, where depending on how you answer one question, that will populate other questions rather than seeing them all in a static version where they may not apply. Everything from automated workflows and notifications, hopefully to get a higher participation rate as we value our employees' feedback and their experiences here at the city. And then also some deeper automated trend analysis. Pardon me. And then what do we do with the feedback that we get from employees? I am the person in HR who gets all the notifications from our SurveyMonkey tool when there is a response that's been submitted. I do in my administrative review for any immediate actions that may be needed. If an employee, for instance, makes a comment that may be a policy violation, something an ethical concern, or something that may violate the anti-discrimination harassment retaliation policy, that gets escalated up where an official formal complaint is made in the system for investigation. Otherwise, the rest of the feedback that an employee provides, it is synthesized on a monthly basis, provided to the HR business partner for the department, who reviews that on a monthly basis for really kind of more immediate action. If they're starting to see something concerning, maybe doesn't rise to the level of a policy violation, but there may be some concerns that should be addressed immediately with the departments. They do so, and then they also can provide feedback on a monthly basis, sort of in a synthesized high-level summary. I will say, on a monthly basis, depending on the department, most responses come in from either Public Works or Finance Property Services. They're the two departments that have generated more exit interview survey feedback than other departments. Some departments may only have one in a month. So again, that's looked at on a case-by-case basis, but really I think where you start getting some interesting trend and patterned analysis is on a quarterly and a biannual look back and review to see if there are some overarching improvements, not necessarily immediate concerns, but improvements that can be made within a department, some small tweaks to how you communicate with employees, how you provide, pardon me, coaching and feedback on performance, some team building, especially if you have some new team members coming in out of Norman Stormwell. Wow, excuse me.
Take your time.
Now I'm gonna have to put on my glasses because my eyes are watering. And then we also do, at an enterprise level across all departments, both a quarterly and a biannual review, so that we can, too, also look at overarching themes across the enterprise as well as per department. There have been many times where we've taken steps to implement some changes across the enterprise based on feedback from employees. Those reports that are given to the HR business partners for discussion with their departments, again, is more of a summary of the average score given across the board, everything from very dissatisfied to satisfied, on the 7 dimensions, the large dimensions that I referenced in the first slide, with notations on, especially if there are more of them that fall in the dissatisfied category from a ranking perspective. And then implementation. Again, when you start looking at the quarterly and biannual reports, both across the enterprise and in a specific department, you're really looking for sort of patterned responses that can be identified to address some improvements, right, that can be made within a department. Some of the examples over the years of improvements that have been made, everything from communications and the communication style and the method of communication with employees. Particularly, we had a period during COVID where a lot of those numbers dropped and the rankings dropped, right? People were trying to work with individuals who were perhaps working remotely, and they felt like communications had faltered. And so we found some new ways to be able to help with those communications. Training, whether it's on-the-job training or new training and development opportunities that the city overarchingly as an enterprise could put forward that would help individuals with skill building. Everything from effective performance management, coaching employees, employee recognition within a department, development opportunities, team building. Excuse me. We also can and I believe do pair exit interview survey feedback with the employee engagement survey. There are a lot of questions on the employee engagement survey that you either see a correlation with some of the feedback in the dimensions that are also in the exit survey, or you actually start seeing some corresponding data around, individuals largely through the exit interview state that they were satisfied with working for the city of Minneapolis, and they would encourage others to work here and say that the city is a great place to work, or they would come back if another opportunity presented itself. And you see some of those same results in the engagement survey. They're proud to work for the city. Excuse me. And there's also plans in place to implement a stay interview process, as well as then on the back end, the exit interview. And that is also a way to sort of corroborate some of the different data sources of engagement of city employees. And then last but not least, I will say, looking at responses from survey data, really, at the end of the day, I think some of the more telling pieces, why did someone leave? Why did somebody leave the city ultimately? What led to their decision to leave their employment of the city? Besides retirement, which is always the number one reason, for individuals who resigned, over the years, generally speaking, over the past 10 years, it has remained largely the same. It is everything from they just took a different position. Sometimes that means it's because it was closer to home. It meant that there was less travel. Maybe the work hours were different and suited them better. Sometimes it is they're using a different skill set. They went into a different line of work, a different position. Or they went to work private sector versus public. Workplace culture and values has been one of the top 5 over the past 10 years. Everything from sort of feeling harmony in the department they work with, their ability and to get along with their teammates, and they felt like, they worked as a team and they collaborated with each other, to, feeling respected and valued by their departments and the work that's being done, the ability to provide feedback on the work that they do or the goals and the objectives of the departments. Lack of promotional opportunities, work-life balance, and salary. I will say one of the trends that I've noticed the last report that I did for the AEO committee on exit interviews a little over a year ago, salary has dropped. Salary has always been in the top 1 or 2 reasons why individuals have left. Over the last 12 months, that has dropped to number 5. So that is an improvement. And I mean, salary had been number 1 or 2 for like 8 years running. I will also say, conversely, work-life balance and sort of excessive workload have risen more into the top 5, where it's usually been in the 7 or 8. So I'm starting to see a bit more prevalence in that particular arena. Again, I do want to caution, I mean, it sounds like our numbers on exit interviews are very small, particularly if you're looking for a very specific reason. It may only be 5 or 6 individuals out of 70 who took the survey. But again, those are then the top 5 reasons. And I'm going to turn it over to my colleague to talk about the classification system.
Good afternoon, Chair Wansley, members of the committee. My name is Bradford Courage. I'm the Assistant Director of Labor Relations, where I oversee our compensation and classification functions. I will be speaking today about how we create job classifications, analyze them, and how we standardize them throughout the city. First, why are job classifications created? So there are 4 main reasons. Predominantly, newer evolving work needs, significant job duty changes that are found during a position audit, legal or compliance requirements. An example of this could be positions that are created as part of the consent decree, or organizational restructures, where the work of the department or the structure of it needs to change in order to meet those evolving service needs. When does it happen? Are predominantly when management creates a new classification that does not exist, or when we have gone through a position audit and that has been initiated by either the employee or the manager, and the results of which end up finding a very different position than exists throughout the city, which means that in order to align the work that they are doing with a job specification, we cannot find what that already exists in the city, so we need to create a new job. The process for creating a new classification starts with a request for a job analysis that's going to come through the department. Those are submitted through ServiceNow and are sent to our analysts. Our analysts then evaluate those based on 6 compensable factors. Some of you may have heard that in presentations before as CRESAP. Those are the 6 compensable factors. And then we go ahead and benchmark those against similar positions both inside the city, and if appropriate, we might look outside of the market if a similarly situated position does not already exist inside the city. And then we go through an approval process. That is an approval process that involves the employee, the department, and the union to make sure that everyone's on the same page with the classification and how it's scored before we go ahead and implement. So how are job classifications standardized? Well, as I said before, there are 6 compensable factors. The first is required knowledge and experience. The second is decision making. The third is relationships. 4th, supervisory duties. 5th, effort. And finally, working conditions. Jobs are assigned a grade. A grade is really just a band of points. It doesn't have any other significance than that, but it's also scored by the points that are assigned to it based on those 6 compensable factors. So if we have points between 1 and 1,000, let's say every 100 points is a different grade. Those jobs are then benchmarked against similar jobs by points and grade in the city. And I'm going to have an example for you on the next slide that illustrates this. If appropriate, a position might be benchmarked against similar positions outside of the city. And again, that's for classification which might be very, very different than what we already have in the city. The decision for that oftentimes comes down to whether quality matches can be found in the external marketplace. So finally, as an example of how we standardize job classifications, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 positions. These are all in MPEA. And you can see that the points and the points are very similar, and they're in the same classification grade. We determine the salary schedule based on kind of grouping positions together, so we have thousands of different job classifications. We don't have thousands of different salary schedules. So we look for those tight packets of points and try and assign a salary schedule to kind of make people feel like they are being paid fairly for the work that they're doing, but that we don't have so many different salary schedules out there. Jobs with similar points are going to have similar ranges, and this is throughout unions. So whether you're in CNR with non-represented, whether you're in MPEA or supervisors, we try and make sure that we have jobs with similar points paid at similar rates of pay. And I will now turn it over to my colleague to talk about labor relations.
Last but not least. Good afternoon, Chair Wansley, Vice Chair Palmisano, Councilmember Cashman, Councilmember Vita. I will go over labor representation metrics. If you haven't noticed the trend of pulling data for the last 2 years, what you see illustrated here are the metrics by way of labor representation. First, I may just start by saying, obviously there are 24 labor agreements across the city, so over roughly 90 some odd % unionized workforce across the city. So labor relations tries to really keep track of the metrics as it relates to union representation per bargaining unit, and I'll get into that a little bit later. Starting with 2023 up to 2025, and this is to date, you'll see an uptick in union representation numbers going from 3,000 and 3,300 and some change in 2023 up to 3,400, almost 3,500 to date here in 2025. And this is just the representation numbers, solid numbers across 24 units. By percentage, as I mentioned, roughly 90%. That has stayed pretty consistent over the course of time and rising. So if you add the 2 new units, you'll see that uptick there. Again, there's 24 bargaining units across the city. Recently, we added 2 additional, so that, well, we had 22, now we're at 24. So there is an interest, by way of unionized workforce here has grown and remained steady over the last 2 years. My next slide illustrates the union representation kind of by numbers over the course of years for all 24 bargaining units. I will say you will notice empty columns for the 2 new units, obviously because they're brand new, but you will also see an uptick trend in union representation for bargaining units. And so if I may start with AFSCME as an example, one of the hefty group of union members in this bargaining unit, and as of 2023, we're looking at 637 to now we're at 735. So the trend has increased over the last 2 years. Some smaller units stayed pretty consistent with a handful of members, less than 10. Normally you don't see a major change in the numbers over the course of years. They're probably pretty prescriptive units and fields in which these folks work. Okay. Next is demographics, BIPOC as a percentage of the unit. I do want to mention that to protect employee privacy, data is not reported for bargaining units with 10 or fewer employees, simply because it'd be easy to target who's who by BIPOC if we were to disclose those numbers, as I mentioned. As for the demographics, there's been a positive trend, as illustrated by my colleagues. We are looking at ways to improve retention, hiring efforts by way of there are different initiatives across the city. As it relates to labor relations, We've noticed a growing interest in providing additional metrics and ways to retain those members. Not quite sure by way of different initiatives through bargaining language, through negotiations, by way of different attraction and retention initiatives that are bargainable. I'm trying to keep it very limited in how I present it because there's no real way other than to identify the different diversity across units. I like to use AFSCME for an example because we just settled their labor agreement. You know, they have also identified themselves as, you know, having the most diversity across their unit. If you can actually look at the slides across in comparison, does this work too? I like to move. In comparison with MPEA as another larger unit, right? They have far less diversity than AFSCME, as an example. So AFSCME looks for different ways to acknowledge their membership, and so labor relations does so through negotiations. Sorry, losing track here. Oh, that's it? I thought I had more. I want to continue. Oh, maybe I don't. Thank you. And I will hand it over to Nikki Odom here.
Thank you for your attention, and we will stand for questions.
Thank you, Director Odom and staff who participated in the presentation today. We do have a few council members in queue, first being Vice Chair Palmisano.
Thank you. Thank you for this presentation. It's pretty informative. I think my first questions are for Mr. Paroka. When you went through the recruitment numbers and specifically the male to female ratios of recruitment numbers, it appears we consistently have a higher percentage of male applicants. Is that phenomenon reflective of the type of jobs posted or more openings in one department versus another? And thank you for addressing the inequity in female representation in public safety. Maybe it's in part because those numbers are included in the larger whole, but I just kind of wanted your take on this.
Sure. Chair Wansley, Vice Chair Palmisano, many of our bulk hiring efforts, so service workers, field positions, sworn police, they're traditionally male dominated. So one of our key priorities now is to focus on intentional outreach that's intended to diversify those pools. So you are correct in that assumption that what we've noticed. So an example what we'll do is with the Public Works is doing service worker hiring in the fall. You know, we're being very intentional with how we approach it. We're looking at job posting language. We're looking at recruitment strategies. We're testing components and sort of how we're going to go about that. This is the first year we've taken a good look at these things, and so we want to make an intentional effort to just make sure that we bring in a diverse representation of the community that we serve.
Yeah. And also on the BIPOC end as well, you know, I'm glad to hear how much you're exploring what factors might be impacting those numbers. For the exit interviews, if salary has dropped off as a top 3 issue as to why people are leaving their jobs at the city, does this mean that we've done a better job of keeping on top of our job classifications so the positions are competitive to begin with? Or what has it been about our bargaining agreements, us getting some done in the last couple of years, or what do you attribute that to?
Councilmember, oh, here we go again. Councilmember Wansley. Yeah, I'm sorry. Chair Wansley, Councilmember Palmisano. Thank you. I do. You know, we've seen that drop off only in the last, towards the fourth quarter of 2024, where salary was no longer in the top 3. And I do believe that has had a lot to do with, you know, contract negotiations, sort of the COLA increases, right, over the past couple of years, and, you know, and the approvals by council of those higher COLA increases, as well as, you know, a number of classification and sort of market study reviews that has led to those higher salaries. I do believe that that has been a good part of it. Yes, I do. And so that, at least they're not leaving to say, I can get the same job, somewhere else for a higher rate of pay. That's really kind of been swapped now with sort of that work-life balance
Sure.
concern.
Sure. And then, in general, and I know that Brad Courage spoke to this, but how often do we try to do job class reevaluations? Like, what is the ideal, and kind of where are we at with them? Because I know that we're behind. I just don't know how far we are behind.
Right. Thank you, Chair Wansley, Vice Chair Palmisano. Contractually, many of our labor agreements call for regular classification maintenance studies every 4 years. We have been behind that. I've only been in this role since January, but I understand that it goes back a long time. We are in the process of standing up those again. I know that's, I believe, at the audit committee, and so I would be happy to meet with anyone on the council to go over what that plan is in further detail.
So there's a plan to address it, but are there job classes that are more than, say, 10 years old?
I would have to talk to my team and gather data for you. As far as studying positions, it can happen in a few different ways. It can happen via the classification maintenance process, which is a management-owned process. That can also happen from position audit. So they are happening, but it's not, I couldn't tell you that data right off the top of my head.
Is it fair to say that they're more often happening because of a position audit than a routine look?
That would be fair.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Vice Chair Palmisano, did you want that recorded as like a staff memo they offered?
I think I'm going to go and look at the audit materials and come back. If there's a question, I'll just reach out directly to HR.
Oh,
Thanks.
sounds good. Next in queue is Councilmember Cashman.
Thank you, Chair Wansley, and thank you to everyone who presented today. This is a lot of great information, and it looks like we've made a lot of progress on recruitment and retention at the city, so I'm really happy to see that. And I was very surprised and pleasantly surprised to see that we've had so many applications to work at MPD and that we've hired more, I think, this year than we even did within this first 6 months of this year than we did in all of 2024. So I'm wondering if you can speak a little bit to what recruitment strategies have worked best and have produced this result. I assume a lot are CSO and cadets. I know there's a welcoming ceremony coming up later this month to welcome CSOs and cadets, and I assume there's lateral hires as well coming from other departments, but if you could just explain how we got to this, that'd be great.
No, great question. Chair Wansley, Councilmember Cashman, we've worked a lot with, really everyone throughout the enterprise, whether it's the mayor's office, whether it's MPD itself. We've devoted extra resources to just making sure our recruiters can attend these events and be in spaces that we haven't been into yet. The collaboration with MPD and HR has shown us that, while MPD may not be welcome in certain spaces, other members of our organization are, and it's important to utilize those relationships to sort of build for a greater good. The recruiting strategies that we're using, again, expanding that electronic footprint is very important, especially as the workforce continues to get younger, right? I'm a millennial, so, we're not doing the normal going out and just meeting folks. Everything is done electronically, so that's important to do as well. And then intentional outreach, that's pretty important as well. We did the recruit marketing campaign last year. We're having a little bit of the residual after that as well. The videos came out. We had 6.5 million impressions on YouTube, and that continues to sort of linger on as we see applications coming in and what people are sort of attracted to the city by.
Okay, thanks. I remember that when we had the budget presentation, I think a month after the year started, that there was still money left over in the Imagine Yourself recruitment campaign from last year. So I imagine that's still being utilized. And do we know whether the large salary increases for MPD that were passed in the last union contract, I think 22%, are also a factor in this?
Yes, I would also wager that, as well as a huge factor in this, as well as the CSOs. We're getting a lot of applicants for those positions that sort of are the pathway into becoming a sworn officer.
Okay, thanks. I have one more question for you. And this is just something that I've heard from folks in community who are applying to work at the city, that it seems like some jobs require previous experience in the public sector or previous experience in a city itself. And I'm wondering if that is something that you've encountered as a barrier to attracting talent from the private sector, as they don't have experience yet at a city, but they're seeing that requirement on their position.
Our requirements for job postings are typically around just in general experience within that job classification. So whether, if you're an accountant, do you have finance degrees, right? We have equivalencies to sort of make up for that. Whether or not you have a degree, but if you don't have a bachelor's degree, do you have 4 years of experience to sort of make up for that? I haven't particularly seen it, but we do encourage managers to sort of make sure that they look into other equivalencies, and we encourage that sort of diverse thought, because the way work is done these days is a lot different than they were.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that we're kind of loosening a little bit the boundaries of what work experience can look like for certain jobs, so that we're attracting people, who do have the experience necessary, but it might not just look the way that it used to look. So thank you so much.
Awesome. I have myself in queue. First question is regarding slide 12, titled Demographic Trends on Length of Tenure and Promotions. I forgot which staff member covered that portion. But the question that I had, of course, it's great to see the promotional data, but I was concerned to see the steep drop-off in length of tenure for BIPOC employees as compared to white employees. There's also a modest drop-off in white employees this year, 2025, but it's comparatively smaller than the drop-off in BIPOC employees. So I did want to hear from staff if they had some insights, maybe also from the exit interviews, why we saw that decrease between 2024 and 2025 on slide 12.
Thank you for the question, Chair Wansley, Vice Chair Palmisano. I don't have that data in front of me, but I'm more than happy to look into that answer for you to see if there is trends in demographic info, and we can work on seeing if there's exit interviews that highlights the areas for the trends that you are seeing.
Yeah, I will note that as a follow-up for the clerks. I think this is, while we get lots of continued improvement in the area of recruitment, what seems to be an area of continuous shortcomings is around essentially retention of BIPOC employees. And I know I asked this in the last check-in too, in terms of what are we assessing that's contributing to that. Director Dahoney talked about some of the aspects that you're trying to respond to through the bargaining process, especially with unions that have a little bit or have greater representation of BIPOC members through that venue. But outside of that, what other trends or themes are in ways in which HR is being responsive to this continue issue? So yeah, that would be great. I look forward to that in a staff memo. The next question that I did have, just going back to the earlier slides, well, actually throughout it, again, one of the metrics, of course, is tracing data around ethnic or racial demographic. But I wanted to also know, are we tracking any demographic information related to gender, especially in light of the Trans Equity Summit, making sure as an institution that we're also being representative in that aspect too of our workforce. And we often know that's a community that's not often represented in many ways. So I just wanted to get a sense if that's being captured anywhere.
So currently our tracking system only offers binary options, which we recognize is incredibly limiting. With the upcoming implementation of Workday, we were working towards a more inclusive platform that should address a lot of these issues, and this is going to be part of that broader commitment to that equity and inclusion. So we're aware that it's incredibly limiting.
I would like to know also for legal, maybe this is off the cuff only because I know we have protections in place around things like that of if that's also a potential legal risk, of sorts, but we could take that offline. But good to know that that needs to be corrected, essentially. Yeah. Okay. Next question, also, staff somewhat touched on this in terms of Public Works was shared, and then I forgot the other department, but do we have a department by department breakdown of retention tenure? Again, I know, I believe it was Deb maybe, or, yeah, but do we have that data anywhere?
Chair Wansley, council members, that's something we certainly can run. We don't have it. We didn't bring it with us, but we can run something like that.
Yes, that would be great to see outside of just some of the anecdotal examples that were shared. So I'll note that for staff memo as well. And then getting into labor relations, did want to know what is currently our percentage of contracts that are either expired or currently active or negotiated and settled.
Chair Wansley, I'm actually happy to report Labor Relations has negotiated 10 contracts so far this year.
Okay.
No contracts are expired. We do have 10 contracts that are set to expire by the end of this year, and we are ramping up to start negotiations in hopes to at least start negotiations, if not at the very best, conclude negotiations before those contracts expire.
Okay. And of the 10 this year, do we have a sense of if any are in currently arbitration or still actively being negotiated? Yeah.
Chair Wansley, through the, there's no contracts, negotiations,
Yeah.
that they're all settled. Yeah.
Okay, great. And also that's, if they're settled, that's fine. Okay, awesome. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Those are all the questions that I had. Again, thanks staff for providing a really informative update on essentially like key trends in our workforce development. And this was really, really helpful information. That said, I do see Councilmember Vita in queue.
Thank you, Chair Wansley. Thank you, team, for this great presentation. This was a lot of really good information. I just have one question. I wanted to know about the 30 for 30 initiative. So I'm aware of it. I thought we had already had it, but I'm just wondering what that looks like in the future. I know the goals of 30 for 30, 30 by 30. And so I'm trying to understand, like, are we going to invest in, like, how are we going to invest in getting there? Or are we just adopting the initiative and hoping that we get to 30% by 2030?
Yeah, great question, Chair Wansley, Councilmember Vita. That is something that we're still working. We're not going to take a sit there and just wait for it to happen approach, if that's the main question. We are going to actively go to, any sort of outreach program that helps contribute to that. What that specifically looks like, we'll be in contact with MPD to make sure that the strategies are sound and that we provide reasonable and rational explanations to it. We'll see how the budget checks out this year first to see what our resources are. But we are going to take an active approach rather than a passive one.
Thank you. That's it for me.
Great. I don't see anyone else in queue, so with that, I will ask the clerks to receive and file that report. That said, we have concluded all business that has come before today's committee, and if there's no objections, which I know there won't be, we are adjourned. All right, bye.